What's up, Otakus? Oh, it's Monday, and I hope you guys had a good weekend. Um, yeah, this weekend, not much happened. Um, did get to spend some good family time, but nothing out of the ordinary. And yeah, I've been catching a lot of fun and interesting channels out there. Um, and what I've noticed is, I don't know if it's the algorithm or what the case is, but I'm sure a lot of it is related to um, social media coalescing around the James Gunn Superman movie. But I've been getting a lot of Superman content in my feed, both on YouTube and Instagram. And, you know, I've also been feeding into that. I've been kind of showing off books here and there through like short reels. Um, but yeah, without getting to, I just got home from work, put the kid to bed, and now it's kind of like um, I could sit there and read comics, or I could just jump on and do a live stream. And then I got to thinking, yeah, let's do the live stream. And then what should we show off? And I figured, why don't I just show off a bunch of like my Superman books? It's like um, I normally do things like my top like Superman covers, or my top Jim Lee Superman books, or top Neil Adams Superman books, something along those lines. Um, but I've never just randomly kind of shown off a bunch of books in my collection, like books that I would like. I've got a lot of Superman books, but not every one is like in great condition or is worth like. Some are in great condition, but they're not like necessarily keys or um, like compelling um, covers or anything like that. So um, I just said, you know what? I'm not going to touch my back wall or any of the what I consider my core like Superman collection, things that are very special to me. We'll just pull books out of my, uh, like my basically my like action comics and Superman sort of index, uh, pick stuff that's kind of put aside as like, you know, books that I consider like some of my favorites, and just going through and just picking out if it looks like a book that is cool, or I probably got it because of the cover or something, some key maybe feature aspect to the book. Um, Whatever the reason, these books are my collection uh, because I wanted to add them. It's plain and simple. Um, so yeah, we got a lot of cool covers. Got some key books. We got a big stack. I mean, I don't know if you can kind of see, but like a big stack right there, and adjacent to it, I want to say I have like good maybe 50 books here. So again, not everything in my collection, but I think a good representation of kind of my collection. So I hope you enjoy. It's going to be pretty much just a straight flow of me showing off Superman books from my collection. So that with that being said, we'll get started. First off, I want to give a shout out to uh, Biggie Shack and Matt Likes Comics. they recently did like a panel stream. I think it was on Matt Likes Comics channel, and they got on, and boy, did they show off some really cool, awesome books. The entire panel, I was just like blown away by well, their individual like collections. And so, in the same vein, hopefully, Matt has more sessions like that. I would love to join um, the session, but in the event that I don't ever join one of those sessions, this is sort of my own, I guess, contribution to that panel. Although mine is exclusive to me and just a, a crap load of books, but it'll be a good time either way. Hopefully for you. Hopefully for you. I do this for you. Um, but also, I just love kind of digging into my collection, and because these books often sit in my box and they don't get read or they don't get enjoyed enough. So anytime I can pull them out and take a look at them, always a good thing. All right, so we'll start. I guess we'll start with this. Just whatever's on top of the pile here. I got some Jim Lee books to share with you. This is a San Diego Comic Con exclusive, and it is Superman Unchained, but it's this cool black and white variant cover. And yeah, it's just Jim Lee with Clark Kent changing into Superman. We've got this sort of more modern slash classic. I guess this is the one they're using in the gun. No, it's a little different. I guess it is the gun S, slightly different, but it's the new 52 Superman essentially. He's not wearing undies in this series, and it is more built like the gun suit with the collar and everything, which has been getting a lot of hate from viewers. It's like the Zack Snyder Superman fans just will not relent on how much they hate the gun Superman. Even though, like, the gun Superman, from a story standpoint, uh, has all the elements of the classic character versus, like this Snyder's Superman is just, again, a bunch of, I think, I don't want to say they're not Superman fans, but they're just, I think, kind of, they don't have a broad view of the character. So are they really, if you don't have a broad view of the character, are you really a fan? But anyway, this is a really cool book, uh, black and white cover, just so much detail in it. So starting us off pretty strong. Superman and Chain number one. Um, these kinds of covers. So there's I have a one of my favorite images is a drawing, is a panel actually by Jim Lee of Superman, like very dark image, but he has these like glowing red eyes, and he's kind of peering into you. Hey Tyler, what's up, man? He's peering into you with these like again the red pupils, and it's just like he's about to activate the heat vision, right? So it's like he looks like he's pissed, and his eyes are glowing red, and that's just one of my favorite images by Jim Lee. And again, it wasn't anything on a cover or anything. It was just an interior panel of his Superman run, uh, back when he first kind of started at DC. So those kinds of uh, images where it's like, he's got the glowing red eyes, kind of like Terminator style. Those are always kind of cool images for me. And Jim kind of kicked it off with that. Well, I'm sure there have been other iterations, but um, I definitely like Jim's take on it. And then he kind of he kind of follows up in similar fashion with this variant cover on Justice League 7. And it's the same. He's got red eyes. He's got this sort of like corona blast blasting through the wall. So he's using his heat vision to blast through a wall, and really cool effect there. Um, and again, he doesn't look pleased. So another just awesome Superman cover. Now, Jim Lee goes through the entire gamut of DC sort of Justice League characters. It starts with Batman, and he introduced, and even Joker's in this sort of variant crowd. But he covers Aquaman, Flash, Cyborg, Wonder Woman. They're all great covers. But of course, which is the book in terms of this series that's my favorite? It's this one because it's Superman. Um, I would say the second place in this series would be the Wonder Woman. Very great, just an amazing Wonder Woman cover. Batman's a little disappointing. John Stewart is also great in this series. So there you go. Moving right along. Again, we got a lot of books to get to, so I'll try to keep this as. Oh, this is cool. So you know, early on when I got into collecting, Brian LCS introduced me to the birthday book. So you basically take the month you were born and the year you were born, and you can take a look at all the comic books that were released that month and that year. And you can pick whatever, you should pick a book that either you connect with, maybe it's your favorite character or a title you like, or maybe it's just whatever, it can be whatever book you want to choose for your birthday comic book. So when I heard that, I just knew like, okay, we're going to get either Action Comics or Superman from that period, August of 1974. That was when I was born. And yeah, we kind of had a choice between either Superman or Action Comics, and those were the two books I wanted. Um, so I had to choose, and I looked at the Superman book from August 1974. Um, not that great. And then I took a look at the Action Comics, and I was like, yeah, that's better. So we landed on the Action Comics, and we picked up Action Comics 438, and you've got you've got Lois kind of or woman handling Superman there, and he's like, Lois, what happened to you? Why are you trying to kill me? And I just felt like this was a reflection of my marriage and the everyday struggle we go through. No, I love my wife. We've come to a really like a mutual understanding of like you know um, our limitations and empathy and all those things. So I feel like we're in a very good place. But yeah, uh, again, when I got into collecting, a lot of it was to kind of just like give her space, have my space, and deal with the transition of like raising our son. So that was a big transition. I think. Um, anyway, this comic was just fun. It's a Nick Cardy cover, and just I mean, it's just like what's going on here? A super thriller, a monster named Lois Lane. and there's like people cheering in the background and stuff. So it's a pretty cool story. Yeah. Uh, Notice she's wearing green there, so it gives you a little hint as to what the story's all about. Um, yeah, just a beautiful, beautiful cover, Bronze Age cover there. Again, I want to pick up more Bronze Age books as once I think first off I gotta kind of sell and maybe trade away books, but when we kind of have a bandwidth to pick up more. I haven't picked up many books this year at all, and a lot of it is intentional. Just don't have budget to really set aside for stuff. But I'm also saving up for a Japan trip, so that's partly to do with it. But um, yeah, well, we'll see what we pick up. I'm definitely wanting to when I do have budget, when I do have sort of bandwidth to pick up more books. We're being very focused on Superman, Bronze Age, so Action Comics, Superman, and the like. Case in point, this was just one of my favorite toys and cartoons, and just iterations of Superman growing up. I must have been like 7 or 8 when this toy or the concept of this thing came out. And that is because you have Batmobile. Batman's always had his Batmobile. Well, many decades later, we got Superman finally gets his Supermobile, and it's this like kryptonite proof, like plane with fists that come out and punch you and stuff. So, um, yeah, they have this actual like Mattel, or I should say like a Hot Wheels like die cast toy, and the fists will pop out. I had it, loved that toy. Um, and again, Supermobile, hopefully we'll see it at some point. I don't know, but it was a 2-issue arc. I just had to get the first appearance of the Supermobile. And that's what we have here. There you go, moving right along. Um, we got some more Jim Lee goodness. This is a free comic book day. Um, it's the first appearance of Simon Baz, one of the lanterns from the Green Lantern Corps, and just this beautiful cover here by Jim Lee. Got the new 52 Trinity there. Everybody looking good. There you go. It's a nice Jim Lee cover there. I guess we'll stay with Jim Lee. And this is just one of the most iconic, I think, one of Jim Lee's most iconic covers. And without a doubt, this is one of his most iconic covers. And it's funny that, they've relaunched Hush, and Hush is getting a lot of just love and attention from collectors. I see a lot of people showing off Hush books. Recently saw a guy show off his uh, copy of this. And I must say, I must have like 4 or 5 copies, including a newsstand. Newsstand's stashed away in the box, but this is one of our direct edition ones. And it's, yeah, this is the big battle between Superman and Batman. Superman's being controlled by Poison Ivy, and but Batman has a contingency plan to deal with that. And really, really fun issue. Again, just one of the best. I think just one of the best covers you'll ever see. Now, Jim Lee did revisit this cover as recently as 2015, and he put Flash in the mix. So it's basically the same kind of concept here. You got Superman manhandling, and then Flash whipping around, kind of trying to defuse the situation with some roses and flowers. Great stuff. So fun cover, and yeah, just a Jim Lee homage, self homaging Batman 612. So fun stuff right there. That's always good. All right, now here's a book we recently picked up. Hey, what's up, Comic Mag Musings? Thanks for joining. Yes, you're talking about the Supermobile. Yes, that was his. That's the thing. Like it got introduced in the comics. It appears first, and then it waded its way into the cartoons. I don't know if you remember the Saturday morning cartoons. We got a glimpse of the Supermobile there in many sort of situations. What's up, Comic Man Musings? It is. I love that. It's one of those things you run into and you're just like, oh yeah, we're getting this, right? So um, that was pretty cool. Moving right along, we've got some more Jim Lee goodness, Infinite Crisis. There's a lot of Batman, Superman covers, and this has just been. It's like I think that's a point that's not emphasized enough, especially again for those of you who've been watching my channel, you know I do point to one specific incident. um, Frank Miller, his portrayal of Superman in The Dark Knight Returns, and every comic book fan read that book, whether you're older or younger or you've come into the hobby. It's just one of those like must read kind of books that you to get a good sense of who Batman is. You read that book, and Miller just portrays Superman as a sellout. Doesn't do him any justice in that comic book, and that kind of image stuck, unfortunately. Um, and for people reading that book for the first time and getting that um, sense that Superman's a sellout, Batman hates him, and that they didn't have a good firm relationship, because I think it kind of glosses over the fact that they're best friends, right? Like it's not really emphasized in that book that these are two close friends who trusted each other with their secrets and have this long history uh, career of helping each other, right? Just it was they had an entire run of like World's Finest, which is just essentially Batman and Superman teaming up, and then you had Batman coming on to Superman's title quite frequently. Not so much the other way around. I think it was less. Um, you had less of Superman coming out of the Batman book, but definitely, had Batman and Superman teaming up a lot. Um, and that's sort of I think when you talk to modern fans, it's I mean, people who read comic books obviously know this deep relationship the two characters have. It's sort of like again, um, I think there are times when it gets contentious, but ultimately they are friends, and Batman knows. He looks up to Clark. He looks up to Superman because he has essentially the ability to, uh, like, Batman's whole purpose is to make Gotham a better place, right? That's But Superman never comes into Batman's territory and cleans up Goth, Gotham when he could, right? If he could. So it's just one of those things where, like, think that it comes with that respect. You want to respect your friend's boundaries. It's literally respecting the city boundaries of, quote unquote, hero territory. Which, anyway, I'm kind of getting off topic. My whole point is these guys are friends. They have a deep relationship, and so there's a lot of covers that kind of examine or look at the relationship. And in recent, again, in the modern years, it's more like, you know, they're not as good friends. They're not helping each other as much. Um, Although I think it's returned to, uh, years past, right? It's like I've read some, like, Tom King, um, during the whole, uh, Batman engagement phase. They had Batman, Lois, and, you know Superman was the best man, and, you know like, they had this, sort of playful camaraderie leading up to those events, and they obviously are, uh, very much a part of each other's lives, and that's the kind of story you want to see. You want to kind of emphasize that, and not see this kind of, like, like, pitting up against each other. But in this, in all fairness of this, not to give too much away, they do trust each other, and Batman's contingency plan is built upon that trust. So, um, but anyway, yeah, you're going to see a lot of Batman Superman covers in this little lot I have here. So just get ready for that. This is, again, Infinite Crisis. I believe that's like Superman from Earth One, and Batman from the modern era, kind of meeting in the Batcave of all places, and it's kind of a cool moment. This is a book, another great Jim Lee cover, by the way. This is a book I picked up this year in a trade from, I think I picked it up from Big B. And that is, so I sent him I think I sent him some Spider-Man books or GI Joe books or something like that, and he in return sent me, a series of books, including this one. And, I love this book, and it's just because it's just the coolest lenticular cover. It's, Superman Forever. It's Alex Ross lenticular cover, but it's like it starts off as Clark Kent, and he opens up the shirt, and in a flash, you just see boots. He's basically in a flash. He changes and goes, and it's like just the coolest cover. Um, yeah, I mean, if you're gonna pick up Superman books, this is definitely one you should be targeting. The lenticular version, the regular version's fine too. It's just one image of him, kind of with his shirt open, kind of like the Jim Lee, um, pose I showed earlier. But definitely the lenticular version is the cooler one. You just get to see the motion. So yeah, that is a cool book. Uh, Loved picking that one up this year. That was this year. Um, yeah, here's another one. Just, George Perez goodness, War of the Gods. The focal point is Wonder Woman, but, also Superman. We got Batman there as well. Boom. War of the Gods. Really, really uh, cool. You know, just a cool mini series worth just for the incredible artwork in it. It's definitely worth the read. Um, Next, we got I think one of the books that Matt's panel showed off, and that is this is great because I picked this up at Mill Geek Comics. It was in his $3 uh, stack. The $3 stack can really, it's like mostly reader copies, like almost all reader copies. So you're not going to find a lot of high grade stuff in there, but they're selling it for $3. Well, I found this book in there, and this book was in absolutely pristine shape. And then when I brought it up to buy it, um, Russ was kind enough to put it in like a really nice Mylar bag because he was like, I love Superman too, and we kind of connected on Superman. And he's just like saw the book and the condition. He's like, wow, you gotta, like this is a high grade book. Let me put it in Mylar for you, and it just looks fabulous. And that is this is a key book. It's Action Comics 544. It's the first appearance of Luther's battle suit, which is another cool thing from my youth that was introduced. So, like, it kind of gives Luther like strength and you know the ability to keep up with like Superman and match him kind of with speed and power and all that. So, definitely took his it leveled him up a little bit there. Little key issue there. But again, like, God, $3, high grade, just absolute like treasure of a find. And then yeah, this book, one of our favorite covers here and stories. It's actually a story that has uh, Lois and Clark marrying, but Clark doesn't know he's Superman. it's yeah, it's a Earth Two. This is a Earth Two story of. It's kind of like a what if version of uh, their union, but yeah, it's like uh, under false pretenses a little bit, and it's just really sort of like Lois gets to enjoy what life is like with Superman, and then she eventually kind of gives him up. So, but yeah, it's not like continuity type story. It's just one of those like what if uh, timeline stories, which is pretty cool still. But yeah, it's this beautiful wedding cover by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Beautiful, beautiful book. One of our favorites. Yep, got the action one as well. Um, he's doing the wedding car though. Instead of smashing it, he's lifting it up. Um, Moving right along, but we got a lot of books to get to. I'm not even halfway through the stack. I feel like, hey, what's up, Brett? Thanks for joining, man. Really enjoyed your haul. That was cool. The Golden Age book. Earth 2 Superman meeting DCU's Batman. Fun story, yes. Uh, Great one. Yeah, the Infinite Crisis series was pretty cool. Um, this is a cool book. First off, it's a Neil Adams cover, but DC introduced a new logo. And for those of you who grew up in my era or proximity to my era, um, this logo is synonymous with what we remember about DC books. Um, but yeah, I was introduced kind of, you know, around the middle of the Bronze Age, definitely ahead of the movie. But it's this again, they introduced it across the entire spectrum of books, but this is where it appears first in Action Comics, and it's an Action 468, 468. Neil Adams cover here with, uh, he's battling the Terror Man on television, it looks like, and that's cool Neil Adams cover, but it's the first appearance of the DC logo in Action Comics. Cool key feature of this. And yeah, but that was cool. I just like anything Neil Adams. So we get a chance here. Speaking of Neil Adams, let's dive into some of the world's finest. World's finest kind of branched out into more than Superman, Batman, although it was primarily Superman, Batman. You started having like Black Canary, Wonder Woman, Green Arrow, and the Vigilante. Okay. Um, as part of the world's finest crew, I guess. This is another cool Neil Adams cover. So apparently, Superman had been keeping his twin brother chained and in the cellar. Real dark stuff right there. Um, yeah, poor guy. What a jerk, man. Um, the truth about Superman's twin brother. Yeah. Uh, just a cool, one of those cool covers. This is another really classic Neil Adams cover, and I believe this is a wraparound, if I'm not mistaken. No, I think it's just a cover. Let me just see if it's a wraparound. Yeah, it's a wraparound. So you got this like back cover and the front. And it's just this gorgeous like man bat, but it's more Batman. It's like the Batman bat. If that makes sense. And he's choking out Superman there. Neil Adams Superman. So yeah, definitely love this book. It's just a cool cover right there. Neil Adams cover right there. Also world's finest. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, just kind of just dumping my Superman books on all of you. This is just a portion of my collection, but just the ones I like. I would feel like you guys would like. So this is also a Neil Adams cover. Again, World's Finest was kind of branching out to be more than just Batman Superman during this period. And case in point, they bring in Green Lantern and Dr. Fate, and it's a battle for the fate of Earth. And mind you, like Green Lantern can beat Superman. It's what is green and what is Superman weak against? It's kind of like it's a good thing they're not real like enemies, or they're not battling all the time. But there are instances where Green Lantern will come and he'll just obviously he's slow, So Green Lantern is not that fast, but so there are a lot of ways Superman could beat him, but Green Lantern can ultimately just create like a mountain of kryptonite and stand on it, and then beat him senseless with like a kryptonite bat or something. So um, it's just one of those, like, even if you write the story correctly, it's like it can be an even keeled battle there. But yeah, again, some freaking Neil Adams goodness right there with two of his most iconic characters. Uh, you know that that isn't Batman. So boom, dropping that on you for a little bit. All right, so what do we got? We got more goodness here. This is a book I do want to get. It's one of my favorite covers because, mind you, I love Superman, but as much as I love Superman, I do love Batman. I don't want to make it sound like I only like Superman. No, I like Batman too. I grew up in the Batman era, reading a lot of Batman comics and thinking, like a lot of people, like Batman's just, you know, it's like it's a more compelling read. I don't think that way now, but growing up, even though I was a huge Superman fan, I was more of a fan of the movie and the cartoons, not so much of the comic books. I got into comic books, but I didn't get into comics books because of Superman. I got into comic books because like X-Men, Batman, and other things. But yeah, again, um, classic Kurt Swan cover here. This is the Executioner's List. It's just a great cover, great story too. Um, but it kind of shows a relationship of how they are kind of looking out for each other as well, in the sense that they're trying to protect um, one another by hiding, like keeping this thing secret, and it creates a lot of intrigue on like, whoa, what's going on here? What is this list? And it did you happen to look up the world's finest for your Bath month? Um, no, I mean, look up world's finest for my Bath month. I'm not sure what that. Oh, birth month. Oh yeah, that's a good point. I don't think I did look up world's finest for my birthday book because I was sure I wanted just a Superman only book, but here that's a good point. I could have looked at like Lois Lane, Superman Family, all those things. I don't think I did though. I kind of wanted to. I when I looked and I found the Action Comics, I kind of had my heart set on the Action Comics, so that was that. Now this is not a high grade copy. There's lots of creases. There's a little nick there, kind of almost like a micro tear. Staples are still solid, but there's like stress at the staples. It's starting to brown a little bit, but for my intents and purposes, it works. But definitely, this is just one of the books that if I could get in higher grade, because it's not that expensive of a book. If I could get this in at least like a fine plus, that would really be cool. So hopefully we'll pick up a better copy of World's Finest 171. Again, just really cool Kurt Swan art there. All right, moving right along. We got some of my era's Action Comics. We got this cool, it's a cool cover. It's a John Byrne cover of Big Barda and Superman making out. This is also a controversial issue because there's they intimate that they're on some kind of porno shoot, and which is just unheard of for a DC book to, you know, uh, kind of suggest that there's any kind of adult movie filming going on, which is, again, I don't know how they got that past people, but bound to go bow, yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, and they're making out in front of Miracle Man there, and like, Barda, what's going on, man? She's exploring her options, I guess. That is just cool. Here's another one. This one I couldn't believe. I picked it up for 33 cents. And for all intents and purposes, it is in great condition. Yeah, we got this one for 33 cents. And it's a newsstand edition of Action Comics. What is this? I'll look at the number here. It's an anniversary issue. I think I'll say 600. Yeah, 600. Action Comics 600. And it's a combination of like a George Perez and John Byrne cover art. And John Byrne and George Perez also have writing and artistic duties on this. It's a much, there's a lot of artists that work on this book. It's a collection of various stories, but at the forefront is John Byrne and George Perez. And how many times, I mean, man, can you imagine if we had more John Byrne, George Perez collaboration projects? I mean, it's rare, but here's evidence of one, and it's on one of the most iconic characters and titles and anniversary issues. Giant 80, it's an 80-page giant. So yeah, this is the golden anniversary, the 50-year anniversary from 1938 to 1988. Just a beautiful cover as well. Again, 33 cents, man. That's just mind blowing that you can pick up a book like that for 33 cents. All right, this next one is a great cover, but I just have one issue with it, and it's the perspective of Superman's cape. It's Justice League. What is this? Justice League. Look at the numbers here. 63. It's a Mike Sikowski cover. Sadowski cover. And again, beautiful cover. But Sadowski had to basically kind of show what's going on in the background. He had to show that Superman had just kicked Justice League butt here. And he's like, now who's the toughest Justice Leaguer of them all? We know that the answer to that question, right? It was never in question. But yeah, for the cover purposes, Sadowski gave him like a mini cape. He gave him like a kid's cape. It's like and it just looks so off. Just I love the cover, but I just wish the cape had been, at least maybe flapping out or something. It just looks so cut off right there. And I'm not going to hold anything against Sadowski, but and it's still one of our favorite covers. But this is just a beat up copy, but love it. Love the message, right? Love the message of the book. It's like don't mess with Cal, man. He'll mess you up. All right. This is just a cool, I guess. Um, John Byrne, Superman. I believe this is like, you know, one of the first times we see Byrne Superman on a cover or anything. It's sort of the Amazing Heroes preview of Byrne's entry into the character. So just a really cool um, Amazing Heroes cover. Yeah, from it's June of, I'm assuming, in '87. So that's cool. Oh, let's see. I guess we'll show off this one next. Got Action Comics 643. I think I showed this one off a while back as just one of my favorite covers by George Perez. Homage to Superman 1. It's like when you out homage the original. This is just a great, it's hard to out homage or outdo the original because oftentimes the original is iconic and classic. It's hard to top. But nothing against Joe Shuster. Joe Shuster is a great artist, but his Superman is like kind of like a stick figure type. It's not, you know, it's the iconic Superman because he's the one who birthed him. But in terms of you know, like artwork and yeah, like what the character can look like. uh, yeah, this is a much better version. But of course, yeah, just a great homage to two legendary comic book artists. All right, where are we going with this? Let's head into the '90s here. I guess we could show off this one first. This is a dollar sort of reprint of Crisis on Infinite Earths. And it is incredible because it basically encapsulates the entire series in one image, which is like, if you think about it, that's like George Perez territory, right? To synopsize something with different, just like in one cover, you can pretty much tell the whole story of like what that issue is going to be about, right? But this one does it for like I think a really good job for the entire series. Is like it's like he had so many elements of what's going on, um, and that is this incredible Alex Ross cover. This is a reprint cover. Man, look at that. Got the two Supermen, one holding Diana, one holding Kara, and it's just all these characters in the background. You got the Anti-Monitor and I forget what that guy's name is. They're kind of dueling it out. That is just wild, wild stuff right there. So that is cool. Yeah. I think in terms of like covers, this is like way better than the original Crisis on It. I mean, take nothing away from George Perez. That cover for Crisis One is pretty cool. But I mean, this one is just like, as a Superman fan, it's hard to top that one by Ross. So some more Ross goodness there. All right. We are kind of delving into the '90s for a little bit. So these are just really kind of cool um, post Death of Superman books. And as you know, like uh, what comes out of the Death of Superman, we get these four mysterious, like Superman like characters. And probably the most mysterious one of all is Cyborg Superman. And this is just one of those covers, like you look at it and you're like, oh, wow. It's like maybe he is the hero. And like, he's holding this American flag, and it's symbol of America, hope, patriotism, and all that. So definitely invokes a lot of um, like themes, right? For that image is very kind of provocative because it's the American flag and it's tattered and all that. So yeah, this is just one of the best covers from that entire run, and so that's a cool one to have. This is not an expensive book, but it's definitely like think of favorite for Superman fans from this era. Um, I know, like, if you were to run across this at a dollar book, most most people would pick it up if you're a Superman fan. This one also, um, this one probably more so for the fact that it's the first cover appearance of the black suit, which is a I don't think it's a key kind of significant thing as is right now. I know the first appearance of the black suit in the books is a key, but the first cover appearance is not a key. But hopefully someday, when all this comes boiling to the forefront, the black suit is introduced at some point, uh, or we get the story. We get the death of Superman in some form or another. Um, that will boost the popularity of both these books. So that is that. All right, now we're getting into some of the heavy hitters, I guess. Um, up to now it was all good, kind of cool stuff, good stuff. But we're getting into more of the power punches here, the power punchers. We've got, yeah, one of my favorite Jim Lee cover. It goes from like good to better, or I should say, hot to. It's kind of like that Kevin. I don't know if you guys watched the Kevin Nealon, um, The Return from Exile. Yes, if you watch the Kevin Nealon skit where he's like reviewing like adult movies, and he's like, at first I was very interested, very interested. It was really good. It's really good. And then he's like, and then I lost interest all of a sudden. It's just one of the. It's really a great like bit, but I just feel like this cover is kind of like encapsulates that. So we have Justice League 12, and this is the A cover, and what a magnificent cover it is. Um, they are getting it on right there, not even being shy about it. She's got him tied up, and they're going at it. So again, they're flying through the air. It's looks like it's dusk, right? Very romantic. They're going somewhere, right? And then yeah, they go somewhere private. And the look on Wonder Woman says it all, like, yes, thank you, like, and again, It's like that Kevin Nealon. It's like I really enjoyed it. I was liking it. I was really interested. It got really good, and then I suddenly lost interest all of a sudden. That's what's going on there. So yeah, these are just what's really cool about this cover is on YouTube, Jim covers the entire. He literally just like you don't get to see videos of people actually like from concept to finish, like video, you know, co- chronicling the process. But with this particular cover, he shows the entire process. Like he's sketching, and then like he has the finished sketch, and then they kind of fast forward to the inking and some of the digital coloring techniques, and then boom, they land on this. And the only I think downside is like I wish they had done this book as well as part of the process. But these both these covers came in around the same time. But yeah, in terms of the one I'm choosing over these two, it's definitely this one. I just love the in space, the sun. Um, it's just a very yeah. Look, they're in love. Come on, nothing wrong with Superman. This is the thing. Nothing against Lois Lane. I know Lois Lane is the person for Clark. Okay. Lois is the person for Clark, the Earth partner of Clark's Earth identity. But in terms of like who is right for Clark, like who will be with him, not just in human life years, but in sort of you know, like Kryptonian on Earth life years and Amazonian on Earth life years, like they're gonna be with each other longer, and they have more in common, and they like again, who if you go into battle, are you taking Lois or are you taking? I know Lois has like is Superwoman now, which is just a weird thing to do to the character. I don't know if I like that, but I think more appropriate is to pair Superman with, and that's what the new 52 gave us. It gave us a horrible underpantless Superman suit, but also it probed the question: what if Superman and Wonder Woman ended up together? And I do like that portion of it because I think they're more of a match. Hey, Damien, what's up? Going over it. Yes, just I'm in a Superman funk. I just can't stop thinking about Superman, talking about him. So, but does Superman want to go into battle with Wonder Woman? That's true. He's tries to handle things in a pacifist way, right? That's a great point. Definitely, Diana's the more of the you know get my way through fighting, and Superman's more of the definitely the pacifist. So great point. That is a great point. So they are at odds in that sense, right? Um, how to utilize their power. Um, this is another. This is another book. I think not that this one's in terrible condition. Um, I'd put it around a 4 or 5, maybe a 5. Um, and that is World's Finest 180. Classic Neil Adams cover here. So let you get a good gander at it. I'm about to commit my first crime, and you, Batman, are about to be the victim. Um, so yeah, they aren't buddy buddy in this one. But again, iconic cover by Neil Adams, and then Neil Adams, fortunately, follows it up. He gives us the he basically does a bunch of variants on his classic covers, which I love because now we can go and collect them and kind of pair them. But I definitely want more from the Superman Wonder Woman. There's one additional book, and we'll get to that, which I don't have. But yeah, like Neil revisits the cover, but with again underpantless Superman, the new 52 look characters. But look at that, you got Wonder Woman. It's like Superman's traded places with Wonder Woman this time, though, or with Batman, and Wonder Woman's taken his place with the bad. But what's cool about it is, like in this one, you don't get much of a backdrop. It's just this orange kind of like lazy sky. But yeah, we've it's modernized and it's developed. Um, I want to say, what city is this? I'm gonna assume it's like Metropolis or somewhere. But yeah, the modern architecture in the background, uh, just showing you the, you know, Neil Adams is just basically giving you a, a pen or a pencil drop right there with the detail in the background there saying, don't forget about Dre. All right. This next one is just a great Lois Lane cover. And this is a Kurt Swan cover here. This is supposed to be Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, but no, she wants nothing to do with the girlfriend part. She wants him to get out of the magazine. Split and then Splitsville for them. See, Lois is a lot of drama. Not to say Wonder Woman isn't drama, but wouldn't be drama. I'm just saying Lois is a lot of drama in, from the Silver Age. We got this great. This is sort of Neil's. So I got to talk about my Superman 233. Everybody knows that cover, but Neil Adams did the cover with the legs kind of like in a certain position, but the editors wanted to add like some wording there, like Kryptonite Nevermore, which is a weird. Anyway, Kryptonite Nevermore. They felt like that had to go into the cover, and they had the inker reposition the legs so that the words would fit, and it looks really. I mean, you don't need to be like a doctor to know that that's not the way leg anatomy works, right? So it really looks off. To be honest, it ruined the cover. And so Neil was never pleased with what they did to his artwork. Hence, he didn't really like that cover. Yeah, a lot of them. That's a great point. Like there is this sort of they're friends, they're best friends, but there are also times when they're kind of like rivals and trying to get the best of one another. But let's be real. Um, Batman's never winning a battle with Superman. I don't care what kind of technology he has. It's preposterous to suggest that, but people will do it because it's fiction, right? I live in I live in a world of possibilities, I guess. But yeah, so this is sort of Neil's redemption cover for 233, and he purposely doesn't allow people to mess with the legs. He just cuts the legs off and says, "Aha, who gets the last laugh?" And he just draws it from a different angle perspective, but it's essentially the same uh, concept. There's no Kryptonite Nevermore in this on this cover. Um, but yeah, this is a book that Roger gifted me, and then I was able to get signed by Joe Rubenstein, who inked the cover here for Neil. I didn't appreciate the fact that of all the places Rubenstein could have signed, he kind of signed over Neil. I don't know what he was trying to why he would choose that location per se, but he didn't completely cover it, but he kind of like wrote under him. Anyway, not the best positioning of it, but maybe they got some beef or something. And this was again after Neil had passed, and I was hoping he would share some stories about his memories of working with Neil Adams on this cover and all that. But no, he was just being a grumpy old guy. So we just got the signature and got out of his bald hair, his no hair. Um, Here's some more. I shared this on my Instagram, on my reels this morning, and yeah, it's a really high grade copy too. Love this. This is another iconic Neil Adams cover that I think doesn't get enough exposed. I'm just hoping with the Superman kind of resurgence, people are definitely, I think, targeting Superman books now. I see a lot more people buying, um, picking up Superman books. I see people talking about Superman books, especially how the fact that they're still cheap, right? They're like saying like, go out and get Superman books because they're still affordable, and they are for the large part. Um, I got this for like, let's say like $6 or something like that, which is ridiculous. I think I paid $8 for this, which is ridiculous for what this is. High grade Bronze Age Neil Adams book. But yeah, it's Superman 317. Um, let's take a look at how sharp that is. I don't know if you can see it from if we can see it from that angle. It's really nice copy there. But yeah, this is yes, Hulk Superman amalgam. It's a green Superman. No, it's he's gonna he got exposed. He's injected with kryptonite, and he's gonna die. But he's gonna beat the living crap out of whoever did this and take him with him. Have you read Superman Doomsday? Of course. Yes. Wait, no. Are you talking about like the Doomsday coming back or the original like Death of Superman? I don't think I've read Superman Doomsday if it's something modern. Um, but if you're talking about like Death of Superman, his battle with Doomsday, I have read that. Um, yeah, I haven't read a lot of the modern. I'm starting to get kind of back into reading some of the stuff that's coming out. Let me just show you one of the books I recently picked up. Um, I love this World's Finest Run. Dan Mora, Mark Waid. I love it. Um, I'm kind of mid into it right now, but what I've read so far, it's been really good. I just love Mora's artwork. So anything, more Mora is a good thing. And I'm just surprised at how like incredible the coloring on comic books is now. The colors in these modern books are just, I mean, it's just that the palette is just you cut. There's such a range and all the gradation, and it just really pops. I mean, it's like you couldn't get this kind of coloring during my era of comic book reading. So, or even just the paper quality, right? Just the overall quality of the book. It's like so impressive. So, just again, enjoying this really a lot. I do like how the characters in this, it's not just Batman and Superman running around. It's like they've got the little family of, DC, the DC heroes. So really liking that. All right, well, we're kind of at the halfway point. I got a little met past the halfway point. Um, I think uh, during Matt Likes Comics, but I really like the 20s. Okay. The 2020s, I'm assuming. Yeah. Cool. I'm sure, yeah. So I'm kind of trying to get back into that stuff. Um, and there, I do like some of the Supergirl stuff, like her, I want to say like it was from maybe 2018. Some of the Supergirl stuff that I read, like around Tom King, around that era where she's just kind of going around, like being this, like trying to figure out what happened to her. A lot of that stuff has been pretty cool to read. Um, and the whole Superman family, like the Lois and Super, you know, Superboy, or Superman, the new Superman, but he's still kind of like technically Superboy, right? The son of Kal-El. That's been cool too. So yeah, okay, 20 to 2010. Yeah, I kind of read that era as well. Not to 2010 quite a bit, but yeah, you're talking about like the Michael Turner, Jim Lee kind of era of the Superman run. That was definitely good stuff, Azzarello. Um, but here we go. This was a book covered by one of the panel members on Matt's channel. Matt Likes Comics. He's got a Superman panel where they show off a bunch of Superman books. This is one of the books, and this was um, you know, accurately described as Kirby's first Superman book. It was actually his first book at DC, because he came to DC, and then his first kind of project with uh, at his new workplace was Superman. They gave him good old Jimmy Olsen, uh, but yeah, Jimmy is not being his best friend, his ex pal, right there. But yeah, this is our first look at Kirby on the character. For Kirby, and in a defense of Kirby, he does go out of his way to make Kirby like kind of like, sorry, to make Superman uh, Kurt Swan esque. He does a lot of the. It's not your traditional Kirby approach to Superman. He kind of takes a more like DC approach. Or I'd say it's a concerted effort to make him look like the character in the continuity of the books, but definitely he takes liberty with all the other characters, though. So it is still Kirby, but yeah, it's like it's pretty cool. Yeah, you know, Shows definitely Kirby's range. The fact that he can do Superman. That's cool. Um, we also got this cool milestone issue, Superman 300, kind of an origin story here. Um, the crotch rocket cover. That was one of my favorite covers there. Again, issue 300 of Superman. Always cool to have. This is a great Neil Adams cover, and it's when Lois, I guess, joins a biker gang, but she's dressed like evil Knievel a little bit. I don't know. That just she's in some kind of stunt outfit, and she's wearing a red scarf, featuring Lois Lane as the witch on wheels. And Superman's lamenting, "I forced Lois to ride with the cycle gang, and I've made Clark Kent quit his chicken pose." Oh man, that's some good stuff right there. Lois Lane. This is a cool Ma and Pa Kent cover. You gotta love the Ma and Pa Kent covers. They're just such a wholesome looking couple right there. Come on, look at how nice they look. Stop fighting, boys. You're both our sons. And this is another, so you see this every now and then, Superman fighting himself, but this is Superman in his youth, fighting his youthful self, I guess. That's good stuff right there. Can you believe it? They have changed past Crisis Superman origin two times, once in Birthright, and then in Secret Origin in the new 52, Superman was killed and replaced by a guy. Yeah, there's a lot of that. That's pretty much what DC does every year, every couple of years, right? They got to introduce some kind of event and basically create new timelines and yeah, not. I'd hope they would stop that, but Crisis is that's essentially what Crisis is, right? You just gotta like blow it up and recreate it sometimes, and it's I don't think they should do that because it's definitely having an impact on I think fans' patience. Just stick with something, right? Just stick with the characters, stick with a continuity, stick with a consistency, and we don't need absolute this multiverse that. And yeah, if you got something compelling, stick with it. But you have all these volumes, and you got to introduce new characters or new artist takes or writers takes on it, and so you just sometimes got to wipe the slate clean and do something new with the characters. And fortunately, we're at that place. We're at the place where if you get a creative team, no one's going to do what the other guy did and stay consistent with it. They're going to like, no, we're going to do our thing. So, what's up, fanboy? Thanks for joining, man. Hope. I want to do one of these with you. Like, we just like show off a bunch of Superman books together. That'd be cool. They only create an event if they have to change the original. Yeah, again, it's like it's an artist create. It's a creator driven thing, right? So you got to sell comic books, and unfortunately, it's not like yesteryear where you have one writer or one creative team doing like 100 issues on a run. Um, it's now just if you're lucky, maybe 20 issues, right? And on a volume, if you're lucky, you get to 100 maybe if you're lucky on a volume. So um, it really is just the way the industry is structured. But again, if you have the for I think true comic book fans, you want to start reading something and continue to read about it, years from now. But they also realize they just have a lot of competition, and people jump on books, jump off books. So you got to just keep it. Unfortunately, and I believe it's unfortunately, you got to keep books fresh, right? Can't let it get stale. And that's the thing. Like, it's hard to write 10 issues or 12 issues of anything um, consistent and good, and then follow it up with another 10, 12 issues on a completely different arc. Just those days are rare. Um, you almost got to do like, and no one wants to read just like a 2 issue arc anymore, like in the past. So, where are you? You got to kind of do like they do with television. You got to write like a season of something. If you're lucky, you got to maybe a season two, but it rarely goes past the season three. Yeah, manga's a lot more consistent because I think the way they progress the story is, first of all, they have a larger volume to work with in terms of pages, and you know you're not dealing with like, like, what is it, 30 some pages. You're dealing with like a larger volume in issue one, so the story just progresses at a slower pace. And when you introduce things at a slower pace, you can add a lot more detail, you can add a lot more, you know the story's allowed to evolve and be more character driven. But modern comic books is almost like you got to set it up, then you got to get to the action, then you got to resolve it all in the same issue. And if you don't resolve it, at least set it up for the next issue and all that. So it really is a big difference between manga and comic books. That small issue of just the spacing, right? This versus like this, but it makes all the difference in the world in terms of the stories. So yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, it really is about the story. But I think, going back to fanboys manga point, um, if you have more pages, or just more, because like a story has a comic book story has an arc, and it's always rising action, resolution, right? um, but in manga, there's not that. You have rising action over a series of books. And so that's where I think the main difference lies. Again, you just have more time, you can be more thoughtful with the story, and it's just a slower pace that builds to something. But in American comic books, you have all these little mini arcs that have to go toward a bigger arc. So you have mini arcs within a big arc. And seriously, if like the compelling or the really good writers are the ones that can, pique interest with all these little mini arcs, but then build toward that really compelling larger arc. Um, but that's hard to do. It's hard. It's easy to write like a really good issue one or issue two, or even extend through issue three, four. But I think like starting in issue four is where a lot of people run into the uh, compelling, like there's some kind of reveal, right? Some kind of like they're building towards something, and there's a reveal, and oftentimes a reveal is just like, oh, this is where they were heading. That's lame. And then you know it's when you see the kind of the floor drop out of the interest in that arc. So it's a hard thing to do. It's really um and that's why, like, if you have a really good comic book writer, uh you put your trust that they'll recreate whatever magic you enjoyed in their past works. Um, but that's a nice thing. Like oftentimes, you get the artwork. As long as the artwork is like consistent, you're going to get your money's worth. But the story is oftentimes, sometimes, you know, it is important, but sometimes you just got to accept the fact that it's like, yeah, okay, that works, good enough, right? There's a lot of that in comic books. I feel like you read a comic book and you're just like, that wasn't the worst, wasn't the best, but it'll do. And that's kind of where you land on it. Yeah, the panels are definitely a big part of modern comics. And I'm saying like the innovation of where the quality of the book has come in terms of the art. I mean, there are comic books where the art is trash, but what I'm seeing in this Dan Mora book is like it's kind of like, man, I wish this stuff was coming out when I was into comic books, like as a kid, because it would just be like, I mean, it just feels like a better experience, a reading experience. Um, the paneling is brilliant. It's a lot of it is still action driven. They're not the dialogue, even though it's like even though you only get like 3 4 panels of a dialogue, it's like enough, right? You don't need to like have a whole page devoted to like a scene. You just have a little, give you a little glimpse, and boom, you're right back in the action. So I love the pacing of the book. It really is good. Nice. Yeah. Again, uh, you know, um, comics and manga are the same because you have comic books, American comic books that go at the manga pace. So I don't want to like, um, you know, there are a lot of comic books that are, you know, that have that kind of manga mentality in terms of the story, right? But yeah, this particular medium, the DC, the Marvels of what we read, we're limited in that sense. But there are a lot of modern I mean comics, I guess independent comics that take this take the more the manga approach. Like Sin City is a great example. Sin City is like, you know, pretty much like American manga. if you, but what I'm trying to say is manga just means comic books. It just means stories told through panels through the American medium. Literally is just like comics, right? You take a panel or bubbles and all that. So manga is just a translation of comic books, and I think people should look at manga that way. It's just Japanese comic books, and these are American comic books. They're not different, other than those cultural nuances. And one of the big ones is again that the formatting. You got 20 some issues in a volume one, and it's going to end. That 28th issue is going to end the arc. If they pick up another story, it's going to be a completely new arc with those characters. But that 28 or 24 issues is going to end that arc. You're done. You don't get more. I'm sorry. You might get a movie or something afterwards, but that's if you're lucky. But with American comic books, it's different, and it can range. But it isn't that 28 book, like thick book format. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Good story is always, I think, you know, I hearken back to like for me, um, I I do like the manga style of storytelling. But I also point to, for example, my favorite comic book of all time, Japanese or American, is G.I. Joe the Silent Issue. And if you've ever read that comic book, it's just no word bubbles, no words. I mean, there's words within the panel, but it's like, like exit or something like that, right? It's like within the context of the story, it's just writing in the world, not something being communicated. Although it is communicating something to the reader, it's not technically um, it's sound, right? It's not verbal communication. Um, that silent issue is absolutely brilliant, and doesn't matter if you're 10 years old or if you're 100 years old. You can go back and read that book at any point in time and still enjoy the crap out of it. And that's just a single issue American comic book. And there's nothing the Japanese could produce in that amount of pages with just images that could top that book. I'm sorry. Although it does involve one of the coolest Japanese American or Japanese character, he's Japanese American, Tommy, Storm Shadow. It's the introduction of Storm Shadow, and it's written by a Japanese American. So, mind you, it's still culturally Japanese in that sense. But yeah, there's nothing manga could produce that would even come close to that book. And that's just my opinion, but it's an old fart's opinion. But yeah, go read that book. It's uh, one of the best comic books ever written, and it's just brilliant, just brilliant. Um, you gotta like GI Joe too. I'm sorry, you just gotta like GI Joe, or you're not gonna like that comic book. So like GI Joe, read it, or maybe you read it and you like GI Joe. Maybe that happens, but just go read it. It's one of the best comic books you'll ever read. All right, moving right along, we've got this is one of Neil Adams' early Superman works. His first work on the Lois Lane title, and that is Lois Lane number 79. Um, again, Neil Adams just coming onto the scene and just telling the world, "I'm here. Superman's my character." Boom, and that indeed he was Superman. This is just so the reason I love Superman is because I saw Superman 1 in the theaters when I was a little kid. So for me, Christopher Reeve is Superman. That's how I was introduced to Superman. Okay, I didn't watch a Golden Age. I didn't read a Golden Age comic book. I didn't watch some cartoon from the 20s or read a comic strip from the 20s. I was introduced to Superman on the big screen at the movie theater, but eating popcorn and just being absolutely absorbed by what I was seeing. And that effect has basically the reason why I have all these books, right? But yeah, this is cool Superman 3 comic book adaptation with Christopher Reeve on the back cover in the classic pose. Come on. Come on, man. I mean, I just showed off that two covers, the Alex Ross, Jim Lee cover of the boom. And you gotta hear as intended by the best. Hey, you can love Zack Snyder and all you want, but never say Zack Snyder or what's his name, Cavill. Never say Cavill Superman is the best Superman there ever was. Okay, that just shows your ignorance. This is the best Superman there ever was, uh, without a doubt. And this is the first uh, superhero comic book movie. So Think about it. Superman's the first superhero comic book character. Superman's the first superhero comic book movie, like blockbuster movie. I'm not talking the 60s Adam West Batman Technicolor movie. That was not a blockbuster. That was just kind of like a made for TV movie. Um, this is a true like Hollywood production, box office, budget, big box office like returns, sequels, the first superhero blockbuster movie that allowed for movies like Batman, Green Lantern, Wolverine, X-Men, all these other things to have, I guess, a chance at being produced. This was what started it all. So, um, yeah, don't go spouting that Cavill is the best Superman nonsense. At least not in front of me. Okay, don't spout it to your little like Cavill friends, but it won't be right. He just to like it. History is history for a reason. Okay, you can't go back like Superman did and change it. Only Christopher Reeve can do that. So unless Christopher Reeve decides to go back in history and rewrite his own portrayal of that character, history has been set. So no one can top that performance. And go watch the movie before you like you have all these like people. Cavill's the best Superman, and they never watched like the original movie. It's sad um, that they're so confident in that stance. Yeah. All right, but you got a bunch of diehards here that understand. All right. Um, this is just a great book, great cover, iconic comic book there. Alex Ross is just, well, I'm here. His introduction to the comic book community, and man, what a debut work. I mean, it's not his debut work, but it's like again his sort of first major work. And man, what better person to debut with than the best to ever do it? And mind you, Mark Waid he's a lifelong DC guy, right? I don't think he's ever crossed over to, maybe he's written a Marvel comic, but I can't attest to that. But um, Mark Waid is just a DC guy. He's always written DC characters, DC stories, and man, what a privilege it is to work on one of your first comic books with an absolute legend. So that is that. We got some Infinity cover action here with short Supergirl. We love the Bronze Age look here of Supergirl with the short shorts. I'm all I was like, I hope they go with the short look for the new Supergirl. But of course, they went with the classic look in the mini, or not the mini skirt, just short skirt, um, which is fine. That's her classic look. But I was just like, man, if they gave us this look right there, that is the fan service that we want. We got some beautiful. This is a beautiful Ross Andrew uh, cover. Another artist that, yeah, I just love Ross Andrew. I think I'm gonna have to get more Ross Andrew Superman stuff. So, we'll, again, I want to collect more Bronze Age Superman um, when I have bandwidth to start picking up books again. Um, I was kind of like, I don't know, just kind of randomly picked up Superman books as I came across them, but now I kind of want to be more focused, I think, specifically. I never really tried to pick up Bronze Age books, but definitely gonna try to do more of that now. And I should have been doing it prior because they were cheap. I mean, you could get Bronze Age Superman for like 50 cents or just out of the dollar bins for sure. But we'll see if that's still the case. But here's a great Jim Shooter and Neil Adams book, um, The Power of a Parasite. It's a classic Neil Adams cover there. Another classic cover. Everybody's showing this book off, and it's um, understandable why. It's just the definition of iconic Superman cover right there. This is another one. This one homages I think it's a Fred Ray, if I'm not mistaken, cover of this like guy with his like giant scissors trying to cut Superman's hair. The scissors get like they break, but it's kind of like an homage to that. Again, Neil Adams, Kurt Swan, goodness here. They collab on this one, Infinity cover. But yeah, come on, it's Jimmy Olsen. What would your best friend do? Yeah, he'd cut your hair, right? No charge. Um, so what's going on there? Great, just a great cover of Jimmy Olsen and Clark, or Superman's relationship. Uh, yeah, yeah. All right. This is a book that Metarog recently like cleaned and pressed for me and helped seal up what was like a tear or a split in the spine here. It's not completely sealed up. Can't even tell it was ever an issue. And man, it's got some like peripheral, issues like creases here and a little edge wear in the spine, but like just the just the whole overall book is beautiful. And you got that again, Neil Adams, Kurt Swan, Supergirl right there. Just a beautiful. I mean, you got the Battle of the Super Pets. You got all these classic Supergirl stories. So yeah, beautiful, beautiful book there. Boom. I love this book. Love that book. Um, First Action Comics by Neil Adams. Key book for Neil Adams collectors. Um, there's another Neil Adams book. This is we showed off the Golden Anniversary book. Similarly, kind of, in terms of the kind of the cover layout, you have this golden statue of Superman. Well, you got Superman on a cake for the 30th anniversary issue. So 1968. And it's we got Superman's family wishing him happy birthday on this side here, and you got his arch nemesis giving him a thumbs down. What a fun cover! And Roger, if you're watching this, I want to send you this book on our next little project, hopefully toward the end of the year. But this is definitely one of the books I'm going to send you. And when this has a lot of potential because it's a great. The spine is in beautiful shape. It's just stiff and this that's your sweet spot. I know it's like getting this cleaned and looking. It's going to look fantastic when you do it when you get to it, Roger, because you can look at you can see the water stain marks in this book. You see that stain right there? You see those? So all of this There's not really any creasing. It's just the waviness of the book. I don't know if you can see the waviness there. Even the waviness isn't that bad. It's just there's this like stiffness in it. You can hear that. That's that kind of action. But man, again, that's a Neil Adams book right there. Beautiful birthday. Just a classic cover right there. Boom. All right, we're getting close to the end. I got a couple more books, and we'll call that a night, guys. What's up, awesome one? Thanks for joining. We've got this was quite a find. First off, it's got a back. Someone cut a coupon out of the back. I think it was for this Civil War soldier set. So yeah, the book has a big chunk missing out of the back cover, but it's a great looking book. Show you the front. Got a little bit of some kind of stain there, but overall, not a lot of creasing. Spine is really solid. Golden Age Superboy. First appearance of Super Monkey. Boy, I hope we'll see. I hope when they introduce crypto, they'll get to Beppo at some point. But yeah, like Super Baby, Super Monkey. I mean, what more do you want in a classic issue here? That's just this is crazy because like Super Monkey is a stowaway on the rocket. This is revealed here, right? It's like he's a stowaway, so he's a Kryptonian monkey. So he's got like the superpowers of like kind of like crypto, right? Crypto's from Krypton as well. So basically, all these animals came over with Superman, and that is that. Um, this is a great one, and maybe another potential one we send to Roger. This one also has like some issues where we could maybe. It's not really a tear, but there's like a lot of stress on the spine, but no real creasing on it. Back looks good as well. Again, just some spine is a little like there are sections where it's deteriorating, but overall still decent. You can read the Action Comics on there and everything. But yeah, the front looks really great. It's this game cover. It's an exciting game. I begin as the unknown Supergirl, and then you get to the end. If you finish, it's where she's introduced. Superman finally introduces her to the world. You gotta just pretend to be some kind of like orphan and stay hidden, do your good deeds, kind of be like so fast that people think it's me doing the good deeds, and like he takes credit for like all the stuff she's doing, and then finally he's like, all right, you did such a good job, we'll show you off to the world and reveal you, and then the world falls in love with her because she's this all-American girl there. So this is just a great giant size, 80 page giant size there with the game cover. Cool stuff. All right. And staying with the Neil Adams, this is another book Roger worked on for me. He cleaned it up. I don't think he did anything with the cover. It didn't really need to have much done. So just a really good press and a cleaning. He wasn't able to get everything out. Um, there's some standing. So I just feel like when Roger did this book, there were techniques he used which helped really cleaned up the book and got it again. This had the kind of like water damage and all that done to it. But I feel like if he were to work on it now, he could do even more with it. But we're not going to resend this book to him. But it is um, one of our favorite books. It's Superman 252. It's a wraparound Neil Adams cover, and yeah, look at that post. So it's no secret that when uh, the director of Superman, whose name is not coming to me right now, um, oh, what's his name? It's gonna bug me. Hang on. It was Richard Donner. So it's no secret when Richard Donner was uh, kind of researching and um, coming up with the script for Superman, uh, that he wanted to do a very uh, it's kind of like it's weird how it's very similar to like the process for the comic book. We'll get into that, but he wanted to take the original Golden Age, even the comic strip versions of the character, like the essence of the character in this the origin story, um, but tell sort of like a modern take. So it would focus on his origin, right? The classic sort of mythology of him coming to Earth and being adopted by her. So it was almost two sections of a movie. It was like Superman's origin to him becoming Superman, and then the second part of the movie is introducing him to the modern world. Uh, and it was a great take, but Donner was um, very vocal about of the vision he had for the character. And it was like he made it known that he didn't explicitly say he was basing him on Neil Adams, but he was saying he was taking a lot of the images from DC Comics at the time, which this was a comic book at the time of when Donner was like researching the film. And so he was basically, when they cast Christopher Reeve, they were looking for this someone to personify this uh, concept of the character, the modern comic book concept of the character. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much what happened. They took the Neil Adams Superman and they said, okay, we're going to cast someone that looks like the Neil Adams Superman, cast him, and when he does all the flight stuff, we want him in these like classic kind of poses, flight poses, which is beautifully kind of illustrated here. And Superman has that, like I should say, Christopher Reeve has that kind of pose where he's like one arm out, one arm to the side, leg kind of, in like a kind of like a flying motion, right? One leg extended, one leg kind of folded. So it's just funny how like that all works out together, and you have literally a comic to modern adaptation transition happen from like Neil Adams to Christopher Reeve, two of my, all-time favorites. We're kind of behind on the chat here. What's going on here? We got, okay, that's from the past here. Do you think them having American politics in them affecting their sales? I wish I could. That's a tough one because I think if it's perceived as politics, it you're just gonna have half the people wanting to buy it and half the other people not wanting to buy it. So that's a tough one. I think that it does impact the sales. So in that sense, yeah, I think you're right. Um, we already covered this one. Okay, let's see. Manga is selling more because it's easy to get chapter one of a manga. I think manga is selling more because you just have a group of people who grew up on it. Um, I think the fact that kids got to watch Dragon Ball on TV every day, uh, the fact that you have Pokemon cards and Yu-Gi-Oh cards and cartoons, and you have Naruto playing every day, you just had a bunch of kids who got into anime, and then that was their drug of choice. And then what's the next thing? They, oh well, we don't have to watch the anime. We could read the comic books, and the comic books, to be honest, are way better than the anime because the anime is like a synopsis of that entire series in 2 hours, where you can read 28 books and have, however long it takes you to read 28 books, but that's at least a day, right? If not more, to enjoy that. And especially if you're reading manga as it's coming out, you have to wait months, right? You have to wait months for a volume of manga to come out. So it is sort of like um, a different, yeah, but yeah, chapter one of manga, you get it, but you have to wait. Um, I think overall, just manga content is the drug of choice for today's generation. I don't know how old you are, Clark. Maybe it sounds to me like you're maybe, I want to say a millennial, right? Maybe grew up in the 90s. So I think your generation is kind of where it starts, kind of where the whole manga craze started if you're a millennial. Christopher, we will not be, yeah, absolutely. We've already established that. Dude, the 90s was wild. Yeah. Did Supergirl stick more with the romance comic storytelling of the time? I think there was a bit of a romantic factor in the whole introduction of Supergirl. Um, they presented her as really just like a wholesome, like girl next door, kind of companion helper to Superman and all that. So it definitely, if you're like a young kid and you know um, you like the female form, that's definitely a lot of that going on with Supergirl for sure. Awesome Superman coming out in July. Yes. Hope James Gunn can do a great Superman movie. Looks good. I agree. I think I already think like um, I think it is going to be a huge success, and the reason I say that is because um, oftentimes social media is used as uh, and this is unfortunate because I think it shows how people's perceptions can kind of be manipulated. But it's a huge social media is a huge influencer, and it's a huge it can convince you to think a certain way, and so if it's used with a certain purpose in mind, they can literally flood your feed with propaganda or a message that you perceive other people are buying into and then you buy into and all that. And kind of, you know, feeds into itself. And I feel like that's where we are with Superman. It's like you got families now excited about crypto, right? When it comes out, like people are going to rush to get tickets. So its opening weekend is going to be huge. It's going to be shown in every corner of the United States. I don't care if you live in rural Kansas or if you're in like metropolitan, like like Manhattan, right? It's like it's going to be in every corner of the theater. So people are going to want to see it. And I think that opening weekend, if it's huge success, it's going to spill over and spill over for as long as there's, you know, as long as the summer lasts. So that's a good 2 months of at least Superman being the top box office draw. So yes, I think it's going to be huge. Got into manga because of anime and more value for your dollar. Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm glad people are bringing up manga because even though I'm showing off my super, I'm going to just show off my last Superman book and talk about what I'm going to be doing this summer, which is why I'm not spending as much on comic books at the moment. So we'll get into that. But this one, I love it with flaws and all. Wouldn't change it. Although I do want a nicer copy, and I ran into a nicer copy this summer for $20, and I didn't pick it up. And now I'm just like, I just hit myself. I just hate myself for not having taken that opportunity because I was kind of like, it's. I already have the book, $20, and I was saving for like all these other things that I was planning to buy that summer. So I was just like, I'm not gonna get it now. I'll come back and get it. And then when I came back to get it, it was gone. But it was a like high grade. I want to say 8.5 copy of this book for $20. And now I'm just like, should have just bought it. Should have just bought it. Uh, Japan, Australia, Thailand, France, UK, and Canada comes out around the same time as America. Yeah, in terms of manga, that's true. Yeah. Oh, so the gun movie. Okay. Yeah, manga distribution too now is like things come out in Japan, but if it's popular enough, it pretty much hits the internet at around the same time. So people who have that's a great thing about Japanese manga. You have this community of like Japanese language, English language sort of people who translate stuff as soon as it comes out and they post it and you can literally get an English like it's not even translated in English by the publishing company. It's translated by fans and it's just shared. So it's obviously illegal, but you get these like fan subversions of manga and they're available in like, you know, digital format. And so you can download it and read it pretty much as the books come out because it's like takes a couple days to translate it and digital upload copies of it to the internet. So yeah, I mean, you literally have like um, sort of a same day or a near um, the timing of the access to the books are near when they come out in Japan. Well, another reason manga's cheaper is it's produced on very like even to today, it's produced on very cheap newsprint, kind of like what comic books used to be printed on back in the day. And it's not produced in color. Only the, the maybe the what is it, the cover uh, leaflet, the booklet is printed in color. The entire book is black and white. It's like literally newsprint value uh, printing. So it doesn't cost much. And you can get, again, a whole volume for like $3. It's not much at all by American standards. Um, and Manga artists, I wouldn't say are paid less, um, because um, it all varies studio to studio. Uh, but these studios, they're generally led by the head creator, the person who wrote, and unless it's like a Shonen Jump title, then it's like the artist actually working himself, right? If it's a Shonen Jump introduction, you're literally working by yourself, creating the whole thing for Shonen Jump on your schedule. But when that hits, and basically, okay, you got a hit comic book on your hand, that's when you like get a studio of like people to work on the book. And like um so as the book, like, I'm just using Naruto as an example, right? Naruto, um the 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 creator of Naruto, he started the work by himself, and then when it took off in Shonen Jump, it became literally just one of the most popular manga. It got produced into a series pretty much early on, like anime series, which took off. And so the manga was, at that point, it was much slower in terms of its production, where the anime content was like they could produce everything within a couple of months, an entire season, right? So the manga actually had to like pace itself toward an end versus the anime having all these like kind of split. It was just like, we're gonna do all these side stories. You work on your comic book, we're gonna do all these side stories and have like filler seasons. But then the manga came to a close eventually. I think, what is it? Something like 70 issues in the Naruto manga, which is, I think, unprecedented. That kind of longevity is rarely seen. Um, and then you had like 13, 14 plus seasons of um, the anime. And that's a brilliant end to a series. I mean, if you haven't watched Naruto, you're really missing out. That is just as good as I think Shonen Jump manga can get. Yeah, I can. And a lot of people point to Bleach, a lot of people point to Dragon Ball Z, and I'm not denying that those other things are great. But in terms of longevity and the way things end and the characters that are introduced in Naruto, I've watched the other ones, and I'm sorry that nothing touches Naruto. Um, and if you watch Naruto from the start to the end, everything, manga, anime, everything, you know what I'm talking about. Thoughts on DC anime, Suicide Squad, and Batman did that. I think anime ultimately is a cool thing to watch. And I did see, like, I've seen excerpts because they did X-Men anime way back in the day when I was still collecting. Um, and then, yeah, I know they've done like Batman anime, like they're little shorts, right? Those are cool. I think stylistically they're cool, but there's just something off about it. Like, it's just kind of like more style than substance. So I'm not that big of a fan on the anime convert stuff. So um, I wish I could. I wish I was more of an I'm not any kind of expert on manga. Don't get me wrong. Like, I enjoy manga, I enjoy anime, but like I haven't watched very much of it. And there's so much. Like, there's so much just in like 2025, there's so much. But if you're talking about like the whole catalog of manga and anime, the volume is just mind numbing because they have it's just more creators, more writers than you can ever imagine, and they have just pockets of like fandom, like people who are into just different stuff. So if you're into a certain kind of like genre, they have like various like different kinds of genre, like maid genres or like, like gay love stories. That's a genre. Um, like, you know, they'll have like adult themed, like, like hentai manga. And then they'll have very like childish, like, I mean, it's just a whole range of like different things, like comedy, like action, science fiction, just the whole range. And you literally cannot read everything. It's impossible to read everything that comes out. I think even in American comic books too now, it's like you're at the point where it's impossible to read what comes out month to month because there's so much volume. But when you talk about American comic book volume compared to Japanese comic book volume, it's not even comparable. There's so much more volume over there. And that's why, depending on the project, if it's a hit project, your artists are getting paid a lot in that studio. But if it's like a kind of like a no name project, you've just got limited production, yeah, you're probably just some kind of starving artist trying to break into one of the bigger studios or have enough of a portfolio to maybe get drafted into again a bigger project. So it all depends on your resume and the kind of work you've put out there, and hopefully you get hired or enter a specific studio. Um, but yeah, the top production uh, people who work in the top books or the top publishing companies make quite a good, I would say, um, as good as what some of the top comic book creators make here. It's not like you're known; you're just on that team, right? So you're making um, a decent salary. I don't want to say you're going to be like a millionaire, but definitely the creator. So you, to break into manga and anime, you have to be the name on the comic book. So you have to create the content itself, not just be some back office like um, person who's just, especially on the anime side, if you're just producing cell animation and doing one cell and the guy next to you is doing the exact same cell, but for the next frame, right? It's like that kind of work is like done as a team and you just produce it and you're not getting credited or anything, but you're just making a salary, right? That's I think the difference. It's a lot more collaborative. Um, you're putting a lot more content, doing a lot more work. Whereas a comic book is like three guys. You kind of talk on maybe on like Zoom and you do your own thing and it all kind of comes together. It's not that labor intensive. That's why I stuck with DC because your background. Mm. Okay, yeah. No, I think I've seen some of the. I think I've seen the Batman DC stuff through YouTube one time, and it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't bad. Anything again stylistically, I think anime stuff is just cool to look at. Um, so I do appreciate when they do anime versions of it, but um, yeah, I mean, you know, if would would I want to see an anime product like a anime production company do a full like movie of Batman? That would depend. Like a Japanese version of Batman. That might be cool to watch. Who knows? Um, let's see. Oh, the DC anime movie. DCs. Is that where they just get like anime artists to do like DC content? Okay. Like in the anime style? I'm sure that could work. Yeah, it's anime quality, right? That would be, again, I think it's just a stylistic thing. It's a stylistic difference, but maybe a little bit more quality, a little bit more production value, because modern anime is more computer graphics than it is actual like cell animation these days. Oh, that's a brilliant thing. If you watched Evangelion, the last chapter of this revamp of Evangelion, yeah, that's pretty much all like computer effects, but it's also still animate like cell animation. It's like digital. They meld digital techniques to cell animation, so it's like, again, it just looks brilliant on the big screen. You know, um, and the animation is just, it's almost like real life, like in terms of the movement and the detail in that animation. It's just incredible. Can't explain it. You just gotta visually watch it. Hopefully, you guys have seen it, but it's just absolutely mind blowing how um, visually stunning it is. All right, well, that's my. So let me share what my summer project is going to be. So, I'm going to Japan this summer, and what's really cool is if you watched Dave Vengers, he's a local guy here. Dave Vengers went to Tokyo, I think. I want to say he went to Tokyo over the winter. Just recently, a couple months ago, he went to Tokyo, and I think he has a buddy there who was taking him to all the places in Akihabara, and there was a place in Ikebukuro. They have an American kind of comic book shop where they sell, Japanese versions of the American books. And I think that's what Dave Enders was focused on. He was focused on picking up like uh, Japanese editions of maybe older books to resell in the U.S. So that's a great thing to actually hunt for, right? Like um, getting like a Jim Lee cover in like uh, katakana or hiragana, the Japanese language, and selling it to some collectors here who collect the international editions. But that is not what I'm going to be doing this summer. I'm not going to be hunting for. I might pick up a, if I run into like a Jim Lee book or a Neil Adams book with the cool Japanese logo, and it is like an older book or something from that period, um, I definitely would consider picking it up. I would probably pick it up. But what I am going to be focused on, and again, I'm going to be focused on a lot of things, not necessarily related to collectibles. I'm going to be just eating a lot of good food, um, hanging out with my friends, drinking, and just enjoying time with family and friends out there. But I am going to Akihabara. I'll probably hit up that shop in Ikebukuro, the American comic book shop. But those are the two places I think I'm going to focus on. I don't have too much time to like run around. Also, my wife's hometown is in the northern province or the northern state of Saitama. And she just, in her community, there's like used bookstores and collectible types stuff locally, um, which I'm probably going to hit up. So I'm hoping to find some good manga stuff there. I probably won't find American comic books or anything like that, but I'm hoping to find like some of the Peach Momoko, her artist, like basically her artist edition. It's more of like a her first sort of portfolio of work for I think one of the like uh, for one of the like manga cons out there, um, which is a high price book. So if I find that, that's definitely the the peak find because I don't think it'll be a lot. Nobody knows who Peach Momoko is in Japan, unfortunately. She's just not a well-known manga artist. Um, Although, I think her popularity in American comics has gotten her some recognition and notoriety, but within the manga industry, she's still an unknown. And to be honest, she's not all that much more talented than the people working in the manga industry. Um, but yeah, if I can, okay, that looks pretty good. Batman Ninja. I think that's the one I saw, the Batman Ninja one. If I can find her book, I definitely will pick that up. That's the first and foremost thing I'm going to look for. But the other thing I want to pick up, and this is just, it's it's something I personally just want is back issues of Shonen Jump. So if you know what Shonen Jump is it's basically a monthly comic book, and it's like this thick. It's literally like hundreds of pages. Um, Again, the cover is like printed on kind of good paper, huge spine, and then the interior is all like the cheapest like newsprint paper. The ink is like it's not even black and white. Sometimes it's purple. Sometimes it's just uh, again, it's just not quality material, but it's just like a huge thick volume of about I want to say like 10 featured comics that continue month to month. So you just get like a little snippet of a scene or something, and then you have to wait for the next month to get the next. But you get a collection of like 10 stories, right? Um, and this Shonen Jump, which is basically the translation is like young boys jump, right? It's targeted at young boys. Shonen is like kids, not even teenagers, kids. So you got a lot of uh, comics targeted at like boys around 7 to like 12. That's probably the age range. But this comic book has been running since the I want to say late 60s. Um, it might be even earlier than that, but it's been running for a long time. Let me just look it up real quick. I'd like to know myself. Weekly shown. Oh, so it is a weekly. It's weekly. So you have to wait every week to get a new edition. And it's been published since 1968. Yeah, so the first Shonen Jump. Uh, in fact, I can show a cover of it. Hang on just a moment. Here we go. So this is the cover of the first Shonen Jump. Now, I will not find this probably. And if I do find it, it's probably worth a lot of money. It's probably sitting in, um, I would imagine this is like the equivalent of like Action One or somewhere, in that vicinity in terms of what collectors want and uh, the supply, right? Um, but outside of these early ones and the key ones, like again, first like appearance of like Dragon Ball Z issues, um, these are printed on a massive scale. Look at this. The circulation is 1 million. Okay. Just think about that. 1 million kids are reading this. They're printing 1 million copies of these. They're all getting bought up and read and then recycled. Kids do not keep this because they take up a lot of room. They consume them and then they recycle them. And these are oftentimes end up in like used book stores. They're just thrown away half the time. They're just not collectible uh, things. So they're not worth a lot. You can you can definitely find back issues for like cheap. I'm talking like, like $1, right? And these are great. Now there are people who collect these, and again, the better, just like comic books, the better condition they're in, um, and the key moments or the key uh, scenes from a story. I don't think they're as maybe first appearance focused, but I'm sure there's a little bit of that. Maybe I'm sure that first time Dragon Ball Z, the first issue that's introduced, that's a big issue, right? Um, Same with Naruto, first edition Naruto. Uh, sorry, the first appearance of Naruto in Shonen Jump, that's a big issue. Those are not the ones I'm targeting per se. Um, I just want, for example, I just want uh, like a key moment from that Naruto comic book. Um, Whether it's like the Itachi, Sasuke battle. That would be a cool one to like any portion of that battle, but especially the ending with the, you know. But I don't think at that point, I think Shonen Jump stopped producing. So that's the thing. There's a limitation. Shonen Jump only um, runs the comic book to a certain point, and then afterwards, you have to pick up the story through the manga. Like it'll introduce and kind of spark interest in a title. So it's literally like a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a test ground for, do the kids like it or do the kids hate it? And you can tell like if they're selling a lot of issues of something and the chat boards or the fandom is like talking about, this is good, you got to read this, and it spills over into the manga sales, then Shonen Jump has successfully done what it set out to do, like get kids hooked on a certain title. So there are a lot of like manga that's introduced that is a hit. Obviously, the exposure in this, because every kid gets it, it's like so cheap. It's a lot of content. You get to read it week to week. Um, this is how kids just consume manga in Japan. They don't necessarily get all the volumes unless they know it's good, right? So they'll read all the preview stuff and the introduction stuff. But they have long runs. They literally like will do entire series of comic books in Shonen Jump before they they'll end the run and introduce another title, right? But Shonen Jump has some of the most icon. They've introduced some of the most iconic comic books: Dragon Ball Z, Bleach, One Piece, Naruto. These are all got their start in Shonen Jump and became like cultural phenomenons in Japan, and that's why you have all this stuff here in the US, those are all were introduced in the pages of Shonen Jump. Again, the testing ground, sort of ground zero for whether a manga is going to be good or not, and gets the next, investment push. And like, again, it's got the eyes on it. Now you've got the sales. Now you can really plan out, what are we going to do with this? Are we going to have movies? Are we going to have what kind of stuff are we going to license? Are we going to make toys? It's a real sort of like, again, base, ground level marketing for the manga industry there. So I am targeting back issues of Shonen Jump, the full, just Japanese versions. Not looking for, like, they don't translate it for first and foremost, but there's so many copies, and these are collectibles, so you can go and get back issues. But every corner, I guess manga used bookstore type area will probably have a selection of back issues. So it's not really about going to Akihabara, and I'm sure that they have a shop that will focus on it, but it's really about going to like some of the more obscure bookstores, and especially the older manga shops. Like, I think if you use the manga bookstore or manga shop, they'll have like mountains of Shonen Jump just sitting there as recycled stuff that you could probably pick up a collection of them for just real cheap, because they do take up a lot of room. Japanese people don't like keeping that stuff around, so I would say like 80% of it gets recycled, and then there's like 20% that's maybe just, again, indie shops for sale. So that it'll be an inexpensive haul, but I'm really just looking for kind of the 90, because again, I think 80s and 90s manga content is where I want to be focused, because that's where kind of like, yeah, it's kind of where like a lot of the cool stuff, like you look at like Berserk. I know, sorry, now Berserk was never in Shonen Jump. It was never in Shonen Jump. But Fist of the North Star. Fist of the North Star, I think, was a Shonen Jump comic, and that's something, that'd be cool to pick up, right? It's definitely, um, uh, yeah. I mean, it's just one of those cool uh, anime manga type contents that I grew up watching, and so um, anything that catches my fancy. So stay tuned for that, and that'll be, again, I'm going to Japan in August, so it's still got a ways to go. Superman movie's coming out before then. And a lot of things will happen before then, but definitely that's kind of how I'm planning to spend some of my free time, hunting for stuff uh, at Japanese used bookstores. Good night, Brett. See ya. See ya. Yes. Thank you. Um, yeah, I think it'll be cool to pick up some of the manga stuff, because it's weird. It's like collecting comic books in Japan is so different than, it's not a thing really. In Japan, it's more about like toys. It's more about um, maybe like certain, yeah, it's really about like toys and like exclusive limited edition content that comes out. Um, a lot of figures, a lot of um, like action figures too, and just a plethora of stuff. Because you can have like comic books be collectibles, um, but I don't think it's the like most tangible thing people collect. People would I think collect like um, I know they oftentimes have like licensed stuff that comes out. Like for example, you get like a pencil sharpener, like a Naruto pencil sharpener or something, right? That would be something people would like latch onto and collect. Um, Something that is nostalgic for them. Like they bought that as a kid, and then there were only so many produced, so there's this huge demand for like that specific thing. But it's not necessarily comic books, because comic books are the thing. Like, oh, you can get this big huge volume for like a couple bucks, and then you can't collect those because your mom will like get on you, so you have to recycle them. If you want the next new thing to read, you can't keep the old ones. You have to like shuffle them out. So I'm sure within that there's some issues that are uh, probably more rare and more in demand, but it's not really what people collect as opposed to what. So the reading, the consumption, and the collectability of manga is much more different than the collectability and the sort of the culture we built around the hobby here. And I don't know if that entirely makes sense, but like again, you you go to the used bookstores in Japan, you're not paying more for back issues of manga because they're used. You're paying more for the new versions because they're not used. Okay, that's kind of where that. It's not like there's like they don't necessarily say this is the first printing. They just continue printing a book. Um, I'm sure there's something to measure a first printing, but it's not really. There's no nothing on the book that would uh, tell you it's a specific printing. I don't know. Maybe it's because I can't read Japanese, but to my knowledge, there's no one cares about that kind of stuff. So I'm taking my American mindset as a collector, and I'm really applying it to one of the most popular, longest running comic books that collect editions. It's kind of like a good example would be like what's a good example? It would kind of be like Marvel Age, right? It's essentially Shonen Jump is essentially Marvel Age, but they actually have like actual multiple stories and like a pre like a 10 page 10 to maybe not even that much. It's like maybe like 8 to 10 pages of a preview collected in one Marvel Age, and that's what you're going back to collect, right? You're just collecting the previews of these, but they're not previews, they're actually first releases of that story, but they're just snippets, and they're collected in this huge volume. So it's just a weird thing to want to collect, but it literally is the most read thing on a week to week basis by young boys. Um, and there's one, I think there's a different avenue for girls manga. Um, I think it's called shoujo manga or shoujo jump or something like that. It's a girls version, but that came later too. Shonen Jump's been running the longest, and it's like it's iconic. I mean, it's essentially the industry, right? It's, uh, it's your entry point into new stories, and it's the test gauge for what will be successful and what production companies will rally around to really market and create a business, in terms of producing more content and just, you know, producing more content around that license. But it's a science. I mean, it's just basically like you introduce something new, kids buy it, kids love it, you produce more of it, you make a film, you make toys, you make, you know, you name it. Like Naruto's on everything. It's on like ramen. It's on like still toys are still being produced. I see toys in Target right now. Like all that shit came from the pages of a comic book that got. I mean, literally, pages of a comic book in the '90s is what jump started 30 years later, an ongoing like fandom around uh, Naruto, and it's like Boruto now, the next generation, all this stuff. So uh, quite a quite a quite a lot to unpack there. I'm sure a lot of you are just like zoning out, but I find that really cool. So yeah, I'm not too much into the Japanese international versions of American comic books. I think the American version of the American comic books is cool enough. I don't need some Japanese writing on a comic book to make it more desirable. But again, the Peach Momoko art book, that's an American quote unquote collectible, so I'll try to get that. But yeah, I'm taking my American sensibilities as a collector and applying it to the Japanese Shonen Jump book. And so we'll see who knows, maybe I'll come back with that first issue Shonen Jump. I doubt it. I'm just going to take a look at what it, Shonen Jump #1 price. Yeah, I'm seeing Shonen Jump, the first Dragon Ball. It's $100 on eBay, right? That's not much at all. I'm showing Shonen Jump 5th Anniversary Collector's Edition. That's a $500 book. I don't know if that's why that's a $500. I think that's just some eBay collector being being trying to take advantage of somebody. But here you go. They have the first edition. This is crazy. I could just buy it right now for $38. Hang on. I'm gonna share with you what I'm seeing on eBay. All right, so hang on. All right, so hopefully you guys will see this. So here we go. The first issue of Shonen Jump. Oh, it's a reprint. Oh, that's why. Okay, I thought it was a whole real thing. It's a reprint. It's not the real thing for $38. Well, at least you know you can get reprints. That might be a cool thing to pick up. Um, yeah, it looks like a lot of stuff is on eBay, somewhat affordable. Here's a $40 Naruto cover. That's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm like, rather than pay $40 on eBay for something like this, that'd be a cool thing to own, actually. It's a cool ramen eating cover. I would, I'd be targeting this as like in a used bookstore, right? And hopefully picking it up for like a couple bucks. Um, Although I can't speak for what the value of this particular book in Japan would be, I'm just going to assume that it's inexpensive. Um, but like I said, it is a collectible, depending on how rare and what the demand of the book would be. I would imagine a lot of kids read Naruto and want to get this particular book, much like me as a comic book collector now, right? So I'm not saying I'll have success getting maybe this particular issue, but I think just getting any issue with some of the scenes and characters I like will be just a good starting point to pick up. It looks to be like this is maybe one of the first Dragon Ball Z Shonen Jumps, which again, you see a lot of them on here on eBay, so that tells you it's not that rare, but it may be worth something over in Japan. So I might have, if I find this particular issue, I might have to pay a little bit more for it, but I wouldn't mind if it is indeed the first Dragon Ball Z. Looks like you can get it for 80, 30, 40 bucks here on eBay, which is ridiculous to me because the first Dragon Ball Z comic book is like 100 bucks. It's not even the true first appearance. This is the true first appearance. So that's kind of where my mindset is. Yeah, this is the real thing. No, this is the American Shonen Jump. Nobody wants to read the American Shonen Jump. Come on. All right, you know what? Not gonna find it here. So obviously, you've got to go to Japan, and hopefully, I do find the first edition Shonen Jump. So this looks to be My Hero Academia, the Japanese versions, and just wondering if they just got covers. I don't know if they have pricing on any of this. So it's really I'm kind of navigating this without a clear, you know, understanding of what the prices on any of these books are. So that's another thing I have to navigate, but it'll be fun. It's a challenge. I definitely will find something, right? Um, I can communicate well enough to where if it's not at a specific store, I can say, where would I go to find? My wife can help me too, but just basically speaking, like, where do I find old back issues of Shonen Jump? And hopefully they'll point me in it's somewhere in Tokyo, if not my wife's hometown. Um, and I'll find them somewhere. So digging through them, I definitely want to just find the manga content that I enjoyed. And I think a lot of it will be sort of Naruto focused. Um, I didn't really read uh, Dragon Ball Z, and I didn't really watch the anime, but I've I appreciate it enough as what other people love. You know, I can appreciate its collectability, its value. So I don't mind picking up even the Dragon Ball Z stuff. Um, but I think I'll be targeted more on, for example, what's something from my era that's manga related. Um, like Slam Dunk, that would be a great one to find. That one might be a little pricey because the Japanese love Slam Dunk, but Slam Dunk, Shonen Jump, um, what would be another one? Maybe uh, ah, um, I think Evangelion was another Shonen Jump title, so anything Evangelion would be super awesome. But the Gundam, I do believe Wing Gundam was. I'm pretty sure it was a Shonen Jump comic. If not, yeah, I'm pretty sure it might have been. But even like I don't know. There's so much stuff. I just kind of got to do my research and figure out what was printed in that era and then target it. So got a couple months left before I leave, so I'll be slowly kind of looking at the back issue and history of Shonen Jump. I'll let you know what I'll be targeting as we get closer to that date. All right, well, thanks for hanging out with me, and man, I've been on for almost 3 hours, so I gotta go to bed. But it's fun showing off my Superman collection. I just I'm kind of in that mindset right now. Not, everything is. Um, I'm not really trying to pick up much these days, and just enjoying what I have. So uh, I've got the John Williams Superman theme constantly running in my head. So it's like, yeah, um, I am definitely eagerly anticipating the release of the new Superman movie and just enjoying this climate of people talking about and enjoying Superman. So my algorithm is flooded with Superman stuff, and I welcome every piece of content that comes my way. And so hope that what I'm doing translates and infects all of you out there in the comic book community. So I'm excited to see your Superman books. Let's keep it going. Let's keep this momentum going until the movie comes out. So, Otaku, peace out. We'll see you in the next one.